of Universal Companies and all of the wonderful students that we have in Philadelphia, I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome Governor Romney to the great city of Philadelphia. And today is a special day because of your presence, Governor, and we pray that your stay here in Philadelphia is a pleasant one, and that we can discuss today the most important thing that we at Universal believe, and that is education. And being that the experience of African Americans in this country, where there was a time when it was against the law of the country for people of African descent to even read or write. It is even more important today that we discuss education for the African American community because of the conditions that are in the African American community as it relates to prisons and crime. So I'm glad you're here, and so we can discuss and find out what your thoughts are as it relates to the destiny and the future of America, because America is for everyone. The African American community is a major portion of this country, and that is our number one concern, is how do we develop the educational system that connects the African American people with their history and their past before slavery. So, once again, thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, Kenny, I appreciate the chance to be with you, and I come to learn, obviously, from people who are having experiences that are unique and instructive, just to me, but I think to the nation. And I have my own experiences relating to education and the experiences of people in Massachusetts. I realize right now that the rivalry between Boston and Philadelphia, between the 76ers and the Celtics, may strain this discussion, but I'll let that aside for a moment. Right. And instead talk about our young people. When I came in as a new governor, there were a number of features that concerned me about our education system. One, there was a very substantial gap in the achievement scores of minority students relative to Caucasian students, and I wondered why that gap was as large as it was, and was there some way to improve it? Secondly, it was clear there were some schools that were succeeding and some schools that were not succeeding, and it was not entirely based upon urban schools versus suburban and rural, but there was some correlation of that nature. There were reports of some charter schools being highly successful and others being less so. So I came in with an open mind as to what we could do to improve our education system and give our kids a better chance. I'm going to briefly tell you my limited experience in those 4 years, what I learned, but I'd like to get your experience from the front lines. And first salute you for the investment you've made, financial and personal, in establishing a pathway for hundreds, thousands of young people to have changed lives. I can't imagine anything more rewarding and more important to do. I came into office and talked to people and said, what do we do to improve our schools? And a number of folks said, well, we need smaller classroom sizes. That'll make the biggest difference. So I gathered information across our state. We had 351 cities and towns. I said, let's compare the average classroom size from each school district with the performance of our students, because we test our kids and we'll see if there's a relationship. And there was not. As a matter of fact, the school district with the smallest classrooms, Cambridge, had students performing in the bottom 10%. So just getting smaller classrooms didn't seem to be the key. We had begun doing a couple of things that made a difference. We began testing our kids. That was done before my time by several years. Republicans and Democrats came together to fashion a program where we would measure the progress of our students. And to graduate from high school you had to pass the graduation exam. And I added something to that with my friends in the legislature, the Speaker of the House and the Senate President. We were bipartisan in this, by the way. We came together and put in place the John and Abigail Adams Scholarship Program, which said when you took that graduation exam, if you scored in the top quarter of those in your high school, when you took it, then you were entitled to this scholarship, which was 4 years tuition free at a Massachusetts public institution of higher learning. Now, that paid for tuition, not for fees, and fees in Massachusetts are much higher than tuition, but it was a help, and it communicated we were interested in performance and excellence. We were able to see our schools rise to be #1 in the nation. Massachusetts, as you may know, on the NAEP exams, is #1 for 4th graders and 8th graders in both English and math. And I attribute that to a number of things. One is, we have a lot of good Catholic schools in Boston and in Massachusetts. So there's been a good deal of school choice, and that has not only helped those kids that go to those schools, but I think it's helped elevate the public schools around them and made them more competitive, and they do a better job. I believe also that the Boston School District has focused on hiring excellent teachers, trying to find among the best and brightest in kids coming out of school and help them get into teaching. I believe that makes a difference. I was happy to see, by the way, in our state, the achievement gap between minority and non-minority was cut by about half, as I recall, from the time we began testing until the time when I was leaving as governor. I don't take the credit for that, but I think the focus on school choice. We have more and more charter schools. We're testing our kids, and the effort to try and hire very capable teachers, those things combined. And then when I sat back and studied the topic from the standpoint of researchers, it struck me that there were 3 things they spoke about that had the biggest impact on the quality of education and helping our kids. One was great teachers, hiring among the very best and brightest of teachers and having them have a career path that was not just associated with becoming an administrator, but being a great teacher was a great career in and of itself. Number 2 was having, where possible, a mom and a dad, a 2-parent family where 2 people could invest in the child's education, where one could be more involved with the child's homework and so forth by virtue of having 2 parents in the home, which of course is a rarity in many circumstances. And number 3 was sound leadership. People who were able to guide the school and to focus on its primary mission, to make sure that discipline is in place and that student achievement is being tracked. But those 3 things seem to be highly correlated with success in schools. And interestingly, a number of charter schools, parochial schools, private schools, and a number of public schools were able to get those things right. Great teachers, good career path for the teachers, helping involve families to the extent possible, and where they were just single parents, still finding ways to involve them in the education of their child, and then superb leaders. So those were just, that's a very top, if you will, line kind of view, but I'm told about the success of these institutions that you've helped found, and this institution in particular. I would love to get your perspective on what makes it work, what things we can do better. The reason I say that is that I proposed at the federal level we do some things to help do what I think makes a difference. One I proposed is this, which is that federal money, IDEA and Title I money, follows the student. So that if a student wants to go to a charter school or parochial school or private school, depending on state law, which of those they can do, but wants to have school choice, the student can go, and the money, the federal money, goes with the student. So that we allow more choice for parents. I like every parent to have a choice and every child to have a chance, is the phrase that I'm describing. So we're going to have that money follow. And number 2, the amount of federal funds that go to a state will be dependent in part upon whether they have ample school choice, whether they're grading their schools to see which ones are succeeding and failing, whether they make sure they don't prevent digital learning. Digital learning, cyber learning, so to speak, technologies are improving every day. My guess is 10 years from now we'll find that digital learning plays a bigger and bigger role in helping tailor education to the needs of each child. So those are my other things, are designed to improve digital opportunities, school choice, and then with respect to the quality of teaching, we have, well, I don't recall the number, but it's dozens of teacher quality programs at the federal government level. I'd like to take those monies, bundle them up, send them back to the states, and have states guide programs to improve the quality of their teachers. So with that as an introduction.
That sounds good.
Good.
That was a good long.
That's a long. Yeah. I'm known to do that.
I appreciate it. It was good. It felt good. You know.
Oh, thank you.
Well, you know, is anybody like Raheem? Would you like to make a
I
comment?
think, we got a tremendous amount of experts in education sitting at the table, far more than mine. Mine is basically simple. For all of the poor performing schools that we talk about, behind that are kids, track. And so my job and my fundamental belief is that we have to wrestle control in order for us to correct that situation. And so the only thing that I would add, and I would definitely ask Nick and David and all those guys who are actually in the field doing the work, when we constantly see talking about poorly performing schools and what we do about it from a top level down, there's never any support. So there's always a penalty. We're going to do this, we'll do that. But the bottom line is, at the end of the day, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of children trapped into these poor performing schools. So whatever policies that one punishes those schools, that punishment should at least be coupled with support. And that's basically, I would like to just add to what you just basically said, because I hear that constantly in this environment the last 15 years. We're gonna identify the bad schools and we're gonna force them. But at the end of the day, you know, that forcing and the transition of that school from the identity of being a poor performing school to actually if it ever becomes a good school, could be 7-8 years. How many students did we lose in that period of time? I mean, this is at the end of the day. When Kenny Gamble talked about the African American community specifically, we have lost too many children like that, and those children are now grown-ups, and now they're having children. And so in real estate development, we have a concept called structural deficit. We have to rebuild this system because it's structurally messed up. So we'll never get to that second point you described about having a two-parent situation, parent support as a key component of the three. We might be able to get good teachers, we might be able to get good leadership, but we will not be able to get the parenting and community support because it's upside down. So we have to work at it both ways. So I don't want to be long. I said I wasn't going to say much, but I'm going to start saying a lot. But go ahead. I think Nick and David, I think you guys are.
Let me note also,
Sure.
and I didn't mention that, but that the wisdom of the people that preceded me in my state was that when a school was deemed to be failing, they had a provision where the state would then potentially take over the school and bring in place a core of highly experienced, effective school leaders to come in and help turn the school around. And I believe that's one of the features. It was not just saying, okay, this school's a disaster, too bad. It's like, okay, what are we going to do about it? I think that's your point, and I think that's a very important and I think critical point. Yeah,
But you know also, Beverly, you got to go back and remember how the whole concept of education has failed. You know, you go back a few years, even in Boston, when they were trying to integrate schools, and they had young black children going to white neighborhoods and they would throw eggs at their little black children, spit on them, call them all kinds of names. Bottom line of it is that will never work. That concept never worked. That mindset will never work. It has to be, Raheem mentioned, it's a structural component within the thinking of America. And basically my position and my job is to look after the African American community in Philadelphia and to look after what can I contribute during my lifetime. And what I see is trying to correct all of the misthinkings as it relates to a people who has contributed so much to this country and have gotten so little back from the country. And so I don't want us to think that the concepts, and I would like for you to know basically that this whole government concept of education in African American people needs a new mind. It needs a new mind. And you have to be able to take America, you got to look at America. Where is America going in the next 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 years? Where's it going? You know,
You and I are going to be there, but it'd be nice to
but the
be
thing,
one.
the key of it is,
Yeah.
is that people remember you by what you do. Nothing else. Because when you go on vacation, you go to different cities, like Philadelphia, people come here, they try to go and see the Liberty Bell, they want to see Independence Hall. These are things that were built by the founding fathers. You go to Greece, go to Rome, you go to all those places that were built. We have to build now, because the foundation that we're building on has a lot of defaults in it. And when I speak, I just want you to know that my major concern is the future and the destiny of African American people in this country. Because once that problem is solved, then I think that all of America will benefit from it.
I agree.
All of America. And so it's been overlooked for many, many years. And so I just want to keep that on the burner, because it's not okay. Nothing is okay. It's the worst that it's ever been. I'm almost 70 years old, so you're a young guy too. Oh,
We're not far apart. I'm 65.
65?
Yeah,
Good.
yeah.
Oh, so we're in the same ballpark.
Exactly.
So when you get to be 70 years old, you start to look at life a little bit different. You say, well, wait a minute, something's got to happen. So those persons who can make a change, that they must step up to the plate. And I think a lot of it's going to have to do with people that you have around you and how they think and the people that you associate yourself with, because how do you get this thing done? And it's not going to get done in 4 years. It's not going to get done in 8 years. This has to be a major, major plan. And you're going to need people power, more so than money power, because you can never get enough money. You know, you just drive yourself into a hole if you keep saying, "Well, throw money." You have to get the community and get
start with the student. Start with and who cares most about that student? It's always the family, the parents.
Yeah.
Whether you're Latino, African American, white, low income, wealthy, you care most about your kids, and that's the premises that a lot of people haven't understood. And they said, so our families start there. But then, to what he was saying earlier, is you get to our charter schools, and this gets to the policy stuff. And charter schools are driven by the local politics of what it is, and so we spend so much time as adults fighting each other about what is the policy, who gets to serve that particular kid. And so in these schools here and other charters, is we always reach this cap, and we can't get beyond that cap. So if you're like 300 students or 700 students, but you have 10,000 students applying, you can only serve 300 students.
Yeah.
So I've kind of moved into this idea of, and so some states have cyber applications.
Yeah.
Now, there's a lot of debate on cyber, so whether they work or they don't work, and a lot of critiques out there. But it's not cyber online learning. Sure, technology is moving very quickly, and other bricks and mortar schools need to move alongside them. But what cybers allow is gives parents other options for their kids, and if they're sort of trapped within their local setting. But really, it's the concept of, we're playing with the concept of blended learning models. So it's like you use the best of technology, but you don't give away the bricks and mortars face-to-face instruction that you're doing. So we're taking the cyber stuff, which allows you to just stay above the politics and really focus on where the kids want. So do like a school within a school model.
So you're combining it.
Yeah, school within a school model, and specifically we're focused on another niche population. So African Americans, who consider minority Latinos. We're also saying there's a special needs population out there, dyslexic kids, special needs population. Most of those kids out there are saying, I get what I get in my school, and if it's good, fantastic. But for most parents, they're like, it's not what I want, it's not what I need. What are my options? private independent schools, $25,000, $30,000, $40,000 a shot, and most parents just can't afford that. So it's like, so we're trying to create that other option for those parents. And so it's just another way to think about it, but getting the policy of it, you look at local politics, state politics, and federal politics. So your idea of like the dollars following the students is a fantastic one. Will it support a school entirely? Not necessarily. So that when it gets to like, how do our states thinking? But states have, they've got state politics and they have local ones. And Pennsylvania, has got, I think, like 3,000 districts. And to get a charter in any one of those districts is always a challenge, and more districts have more. But so that's kind of how I think of politics.
And how is cyber learning being received, if you will, at the local and at the state level?
State, you have about 30,000.
I'm seeing a shaking head over here.
So you have 30,000 students in there, and some parents want it, but it's not the cyber education they necessarily want. And so when you look at performance, they're probably not performing as well. That's why I was saying, let's do the blended learning model. Because you don't need to just do it all online, but you need to do the sort of face-to-face. And the question is how you do it. So cybers are starting to adapt to these learning hub concepts. Like, where do we establish learning hubs that still give them the best of technology, but still do the face-to-face? And so I think that's kind of how, if you do that model, the parents are very receptive to it. If you do just a purely online model, then some parents are receptive to it, but they're more like your homeschooler type of population who have a lot of support.
I'm thinking more of a blended kind of setting where we're in a charter school or a standard public school that digital learning, cyber learning is part of the curriculum and is able to enhance if you will, the nature to which the learning experience is tailored to the progress of an individual child. Yeah, David, you look like you had something you wanted to add. Yeah.
Well, no. First of all, I want to say that I send a lot of guys up to Massachusetts. I have a boy who's just finishing his freshman year at Worcester Polytech. I have a guy who's gone to UMass Lowell, Wheaton, Tufts, and Boston University. I got guys going up there this year.
We get a lot of colleges up there, as you know.
Watch out for. I'm sending our best point guard in the city up to Boston University. Broke Wilt Chamberlain's record, 5'10".
Come on, is that right?
Look out for him. All right.
Wow.